Welcome everyone to week number 2 in Science 200. So glad that you're still here. Here we are starting off the new year in a really good way. You're learning about some science. And so let's see what we did last week. The first thing that I like to do in these videos, weekly videos, is to do a short review of what you learned last week and then tie it into what's coming up this week. So last week you learned about what the natural sciences are, everything from biology. Of course, I'm going to put that first because I'm a biologist. But biology to astronomy to geology, chemistry, physics, environmental science. So there are lots of different natural sciences, and any of those, anything that we learn during this term has to do with any of those natural sciences. The process is the same for all the natural sciences. How does science work? It's pretty straightforward. You do a lot of background research to figure out what your topic is, and you virtually become an expert in your topic before you can even ask a really good question. That's your hypothesis. You develop an experiment or a series of experiments to answer your question, and you do those experiments over and over and over and over and over again until you get good, consistent results. You compile all your data, you put those together in an understandable way. You write a journal article on this particular topic. You submit your article to a journal that has to do with your information in your topic, your question, and then it's out there for all your peers to look at, critique, etc. The importance of revision: you revise from the time you start a project. You narrow down your topic. You add to your question. You change your experiments if you need to. You revise the way that you write your information for the journal article. And then at the end of every journal article, here's something really important that you do in science. You look toward the future. So how does this information move forward into the future? What are the next questions that you would ask? What are some applications that you feel like are going to happen with this information in the future? So all of that is really important to the process of science. You learned about Alexander Fleming, who was a very famous microbiologist, and of course I'm a microbiologist, and his discovery of penicillin, which was the first antibiotic developed for human beings, and is still used today. Not to the extent that it was back then, well, in the 1950s. But he discovered penicillin just by accident. So he saw this bread mold growing on agar on one of his petri dishes, where he was also growing bacteria, and he noticed this clear zone around where the mold was located, and he theorized that this fungus must be producing some kind of chemical that's inhibiting the growth of these bacteria or killing them. So he isolated the chemical and he named it penicillin, and he named it after the particular type of bread mold that was on the plate. But you also read in chapter 1 that that's really where his participation ended. That's all he was really interested in, was discovering what this chemical was, and then he also named it. Other scientists took this and ran with it. And it took them a long time to figure out how to grow the mold effectively in culture, and they had to grow so much of it. They switched over and changed to a different type of bread mold, but it's in the same genus that also produces penicillin. And they figured out how to package it and how to administer it to people. They tested it to make sure it worked, make sure it didn't kill people. And it started being used in World War II, especially in the United States troops, and it saved so many lives. And of course, that was the beginning of the development of antibiotics, and I bet every one of you has taken an antibiotic before. So thank you to Alexander Fleming. You also chose your research topic, hopefully. and there were quite a few of them, and I don't know if I can remember them all, but electric cars, nuclear energy, biodiversity conservation, ocean acidification, GMOs, genetic engineering. I know I missed one. What did I miss? Electric cars, did I say that? Those were your topics to choose from, and hopefully you chose one that you're interested in. So let's take a look at this week. This week is all about Chapter 2, and you are going to study how cholera was studied in London, England in the 1800s, the importance of public health, and the definition of public health is the health of the community of a whole. And so you can do whatever you want to in your house. You can live however you want in your house, but when your sanitation, etc., slops over into your neighbor's yard or affects your neighbors, then that is public health, and you cannot do that. You don't have the right to make someone else sick. So that's basically what public health is. John Snow is the focus of this section because he was really dogged. He was a medical doctor, and he was really dogged in his pursuit of the cause of cholera and how it is transmitted. So cholera is basically a diarrheal disease caused by a species of bacteria, and it causes very fast dehydration of the body, and so you can die very quickly from it. It causes what's called rice water stooling, so the fecal matter that comes out of you really ends up being just milky colored water after not very long. And you basically die from dehydration, and your heart stops. You have no blood pressure, that sort of thing. It is transmitted through sewage, through contaminated hands, through drinking water, also through food. But back then in London, everybody thought that all diseases were passed along through miasma. So miasma is nasty smelling vapors, odors, so traveling through the air. Cholera is really not transmitted like that, but John Snow had to figure out a way to show this. So he did very famous maps, and he worked with other doctors to map out cases, to map out deaths, to show where their sewage went, to show where their drinking water came from, etc., etc. And he showed that cholera was passed along through contaminated drinking water, and it was contaminated by sewage. Now, I will say that this week's chapter is the longest one. So this is going to take you the longest amount of time to read through Chapter 2 and answer all of your questions. And I also want to say that a scientist like me did not write this chapter because I'm pretty sure I could have gotten it down to 3 or 4 of these pages. But yeah, it's a pretty long assignment, but it is very interesting. And if you're interested in history, if you're interested in mysteries and investigations, this is your thing then, because it is pretty doggone cool to watch John Snow work through your reading this week. So the other thing that you have to do is develop a research question on your topic, right? So you picked a topic. You're interested in biodiversity conservation, for example. So first of all, you got to figure out what that is. What is biodiversity? And how do we conserve it? And why do we conserve it? That might be a good starting point right there. And in Chapter 1, they gave you some hints about what your topic is and why it's important. But now you need to develop a research question. See, your project this term is just not researching biodiversity conservation. You have to come up with a question that you want to answer. So let me think. I'll think. So one problem in the world today is a cutting down of all the Amazon rainforest. All those trees in the Amazon rainforest. Why are we doing that? We're cutting it down to make way for agricultural land, to open that up for food crops, to open it up for grazing, for cattle, etc. Also, they're clearing out the timber and selling that. But it is becoming a serious issue because there are so many species on Earth that are contained in the Amazon rainforest, and we're losing all of them, which is horrific. Brazil has been, in the last few years, has been a serious enemy of the Amazon rainforest. The government said, sure, cut down as many trees as you want to. We got to grow our economy. We got to feed our people. So cut down all the trees, whatever you want. Well, now there has been an election and the government has changed hands. And so we're moving back away from that. So why should we stop cutting down the Amazon rainforest? So you might want to develop a research question about that. How much biodiversity is lost per every acre of Amazon rainforest that is destroyed? That could be a research question right there. If you're looking at nuclear energy, maybe you want to know exactly how clean nuclear energy is. Maybe you've heard that it is or heard that is not because of all the nuclear waste that's produced and has to be disposed of, that sort of thing. But so maybe you want to examine how clean nuclear energy is. So you could compare a certain amount of nuclear energy that's produced versus fossil fuel energy that's produced to run an average household, and what's the carbon dioxide output of each one. So you need to get to something real specific in your research question. The textbook will help you with this. Also look at your guidelines and rubric for that. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm here for you. So just let me know. So you'll be doing those two things. You don't have a discussion board posting this week. You just have those two things, and chapter 2 is going to take you a while. Which leads me to the tip of the week. Break up your assignments into manageable pieces. And you can certainly do that with the chapters in your Sumo web text. Just do one section at a time. Answer the questions in that section. Read as much as you can. You can even read this on your phone. I know it's not great on your phone. You know, I've tried to take a look at the web text on my phone too. It's not the best, but it's doable. So if you're sitting around waiting on somebody, or you're waiting to go into the doctor's office or whatever, read a page or two and answer your questions, and you got that much done. So break up your assignments into manageable pieces. If you have a certain amount of time every day that you do your work, then this is really important. If you're one of those procrastinators and you wait till the end of the week, that's probably not a good idea, because there's always something that can happen. Your electricity can go off, your computer can crash, you know. And everybody knows that you shouldn't procrastinate until Sunday night, but I'm just reminding you, and also reminding you to break up these assignments so they're not so overwhelming. Okay? I hope that you have a great week. There's my name again, Dr. Janie Sigmon, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you be successful in the course, so please call on me if you need anything. Okay? I hope that you have a wonderful week.